Right now, I'm currently experiencing a lot of nostalgia. And the reason for that nostalgia is because last night I finished reading A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This really took me back to the very first time I ever experienced this story, which was actually through watching the movie A Little Princess, which I probably watched way back in 1997, 95 maybe. And after finishing reading it, it really made me realise how much I related with the young female protagonist Sarah Crewe, who is our main protagonist of the story. Sarah Crewe is meant to be this old little soul in a young body who is quite unlike her younger peers, but at the same time she has this vivid and wonderful imagination that enables her to tell such beautiful stories. And it enables her to leave reality to go on these wonderful adventures in these wonderful places. And I relate with that so much. Growing up, I always felt like I had this inner granny, and I definitely was quite old in attitude for my age, but also at the same time I wasn't necessarily good with dealing with reality. So whenever things in my life weren't so perfect, instead of facing head on at the problem within reality, I used to take myself away from it. I used to leave reality completely and daydream the day away in these little stories that I had in my head, or in these far more beautiful and wonderful adventures, so that I didn't have to deal with reality. Yeah. I relate, because I was this old soul, but this old soul that had such a vivid imagination that just didn't want to deal with reality. Yeah. But it's kind of funny how nowadays it is the complete opposite. Whilst I still admit I have an inner granny, much more nowadays it's me trying to cling on desperately to my youth and to not grow up, to never grow up, because growing up is scary. Especially this year, I think I feel it more profoundly, because come September I've lived a quarter of my life, and that's really scary. And so because of that, I like to think that I've adopted Peter Pan syndrome, where I just do not want to grow up anymore. I just want to relive my childhood constantly and just not deal with the fact that I'm going to have to become a responsible adult at some point in my life, because that's not a good thought. That's never fun. So because of that, it really made me think of how nowadays I cling desperately to nostalgia, my childhood, and things that just still make me feel young at heart. So today, me and my mum decided to make an old favourite lunch of mine, which is an eggy cup. And of course you can't have eggy cup without having soldiers with them to dip it into. But it's ironic that, you know, nowadays I'm allowed to cut the soldiers myself. I'm allowed to use a knife. Yet being a responsible adult doesn't take away the fact that I can still imagine that the eggs in the cup are Wally's brains. Nor does it take away the amusement of the idea that Mum's mashing up Wally's brains to create an old-time favourite lunch. Nor does it stop me from eating that lunch whilst watching the Powerpuff Girl movies, as everybody should eat eggy cup. But you see, around my room, from my extraordinary, ever-growing, but nearly complete Disney collection, there's always evidence that I don't want to grow up. The Disney, perhaps, is the first start, and it forever increases and becomes more numerous. But I never stop wanting part of me and myself being a Disney princess. But of course, in an adult sense, they're used for decoration. They make my room pretty, but still it's the inner child that doesn't want to let go. I still keep some of my old childhood books, though unfortunately some of my books got destroyed. And of course Harry Potter will always be the most important thing in my life. It's the thing that always used to take me away, and it still does. And still I always had Pokemon, so much Pokemon. And to this day, I still consider myself a Pokemon master. Because I still have the ability to fight and kick ass and win. I still have my friend that I've had for 20 years and who'll always be there just whenever I need him most. So whilst I may be progressing with each year and getting older, I never want to lose that side of me, that childlike heart that can still imagine things and can make the world that sometimes is such a horrific and horrible world be actually a lot more beautiful. So I will keep reading books and gaining materials to build my different realities, and I will keep watching films to lose myself in a different world that isn't quite reality, and I will still fight pretty hard to make sure I get all my badges. I will be a Pokemon master, and some friends will just never go away.